For owners of BMWs with the S55 engine, which includes the M3, M4 and M2 competition, the crank hub is a bit of a worry. In this video, we're going to be fitting our crank hub to Matt's high mileage M4. Although the plan for this car is not to go big power, which is where we normally recommended this part, Matt has done 130,000 miles and he wants to do a lot more in this car, and it's always playing on the back of his mind. So to give him peace of mind, we're going to be fitting the crank hub to this car, and it's also going to give us a good opportunity to look inside the engine and see what a 130,000 mile engine looks like. I'll join you back in the middle of the video to explain this problem in more detail.
So I've started stripping Matt's M4 down. I've got the cam cover off, so we're just having a quick look inside. Matt has got a mic on, so you can hear him talking as well. Normally, considering Matt's car's got, what,
130 now.
130k on it. The inside of the engine's actually very clean. I've seen cars with a lot less miles that you see all the valve springs, and even inside where the cams sit, it's normally all like golden brown and sooted up. But this looks very tidy.
Yeah, so what are we looking at here? Obviously, we've got the rocker cover or valve cover off, whatever you want to call it, depending on where you're from.
Yep, so now the cam cover's off, you can see the two Vanos gears, timing chain, which all runs down the front of the engine, obviously. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take it up in the air, get the under trays and everything off, drain the coolant out because the oil's already drained. Then we will start stripping the front part of the engine out, so get the intake tube and everything out from underneath. Well, undo it from underneath but pull it out from the top. Once all that's done, we'll move on to removing the subframe and getting everything else out of the way, and see what we can find in the sump and see if it's as clean as what it is up here and there.
Yeah, one thing you did show me was this pipe which you already took out.
So this is the breather tube that goes from the cam cover to the turbo inlet pipe. Yep. As soon as I pulled it off, you can see there's a load of like creamy gunk in there. That, to me, going obviously by how clean the engine is, could be just condensation and car not getting hot enough too often. So
yeah, another sign of perhaps an easy life of just commuting, kind of not really getting the oil hot enough to burn the condensation out of it.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see, like I said, when we get the sump off, see the condition of everything under there.
Yeah, I mean, let's stop delaying that process then, get it up in the air and get the rest of it off.
Let's do it. sumps off and we're ready to remove the old crank hub. Underneath is looking pretty clean, just like the top.
So what are we looking at under here then?
So what we've got on the underside, we've got the oil pump, oil pickup and the drain as well. Behind all of this, you've got the crank and the rod bearings as well.
Yeah, and then if we come towards the front, I'm assuming up there is the crank hub.
Yes, so we've got this piece here, as most people already know. These are a failing point in the S55 engine, so we're going to replace it with the evolved crank hub, which is 4-pin and keyed as well. So the next step is to remove the central bolt from the crank hub and remove the crank hub itself, and then we can start drilling the crank itself to fit the evolved crank hub.
With Hash now halfway through the job, we can take a look at the OE crank hub and the problem with it and how we resolved it with our solution. So this is the stock crank hub, and as you can see, with the bolt torqued up, there's no movement here, but if the bolt backs off slightly, you can see now that these can spin independently of each other. But that's not the whole story. If I take this out, even if the bolt doesn't back out, you can still overcome the friction material which BMW have used to try and make these stay together. Now that's done either by running a lot of power on the S55 or aggressive DCT downshifts. This sprocket controls the oil pump and this one controls the valve timing. Now if this one slips, you have best case scenario of a long crank, rough idle, and you can retime it and put a proper solution in and not have to worry about it again. Worst case scenario is that it slips so much that your valve timing is out and you get piston to valve contact, and that means an engine rebuild. If I take this off, I can show you the friction material in more detail. So it's these discs that are in between, and BMW are relying on the bolt going through here and sandwiching these together and relying on that friction material to keep it all in place. But as we have seen, that can be a problem, especially if you're running a lot of power on this engine. So how have we resolved this situation? Here we have our solution, which is a 4-pinned keyed crank hub. That is the pinned part, that is the keyed part. So you do need to drill the crank for this, and we do provide a guide and a drill bit to allow you to do that, and we do recommend professional installation. So that part goes in like so, and then the keyed part goes in like this, and now you can see that is effectively a one-piece crank hub and it's not going to slip. The reason why it's in 2 pieces is for ease of installation. A question we get asked a lot is, why did BMW design the crank hub in this way so it's possible for it to slip and cause the issues that it does? The honest answer is we don't know. We first saw this on the N54, but we didn't really hear about them slipping until the S55 came out and people started to push a little bit more power than normal. What they've done for future cars is on the B58 and S58, they've effectively made the crank and the crank hub one piece. So it's completely formed as one piece. And that's what we've done with our solution. Once that is on here, it forms part of the crank. There's a physical interference fit between them, so it can't spin. So it appears BMW were aware of the problem, and then they fixed it in the next generation of engine. Every M engine seems to have an Achilles heel, and for the S55 it is the crank hub and the way it can spin, and this is why we've come up with this solution. Let's get back to Hash now and he can install it in the car.
But it's okay now.
We have now fitted our crank hub fix to Matt's car so he has peace of mind. The car was quite high mileage, so we were interested to see what it looked like when we opened it up, and surprisingly it was quite clean. This leads us to believe the car was looked after very well. The spark plugs said they hadn't been changed for 60,000 miles, but again they didn't look that bad, but it also points to the fact that this car had an easy life and was well maintained. We changed the engine mounts because there was slight rumble on idle, and that is now been resolved. And in the last video we did on the crank hub fix, we had a few people asking about rod bearings on the S55 engine. Well, we did actually change the rod bearings on this car. Join us in the next video and we'll explain more. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you liked the video, please remember to smash that like button, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. If you want to join the conversation, please drop a comment below and we'll try our best to respond to you. If you want to watch more of this project, you can do so over here. If you want to watch what YouTube thinks you might like from our other content, you can do so over here.